Okay, so the Tennessee Titans are 7-3 now. They just defeated the Green Bay Packers last night, and they look mostly good doing so. I know you're a really big Ryan Tannehill defender. I'm not, but 22-27, 333 yards, 2 touchdowns. Did have the bad interception where he didn't read the defense properly enough. QBR 77. Derrick Henry also with a passing touchdown. Shout out to my fantasy team. Got myself 25 points last night. He had 2 of 2, 4 yards, had a 94 QBR. So his QBR is actually better than Tannehill. Is Derrick Henry the better quarterback? Not the discussion that we're going to have here. 87 yards and a touchdown for Derrick Henry. Treylon Burks. I'm not big on Treylon Burks.
For this.
Yeah, you are a lot bigger on Treylon Burks than I am. Treylon Burks, 7 catches, 111 yards. He's been hurt. He came back. He looks good. Tennessee as a whole looks good. They're number 1 in their division. Obviously, they're going to win their division at this point because there's no other team that really looks competent. Colts have fired their head coach. Jacksonville's really struggling. Texans are the worst team in football. We know they're going to get to the playoffs. We've seen year in, year out, they are able to get to the playoffs, and they have had some intermediate success. We saw them lose in the first round last 2 years, losing last year to the Bengals, eventual AFC representative, lose to the Ravens. And then the year before that, gets the AFC Championship game, I believe it was. But they hit a wall at every single one of those years. Part of which due to Ryan Tannehill. Gotta be honest with you. Last year especially was due to Ryan Tannehill.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Last year was a collaborative effort between them not running it with Deontay Foreman. It was Henry's first game back, and they just didn't run the ball with him. Or they ran the ball too much with him is what I mean.
Yeah, they ran.
So they refused almost until the last quarter and a half to go and run it or to go and pass it with Tannehill. So then Tannehill's not the guy that you're going to be like, okay, down 3 scores, let's go. Maybe down a score, he can help lead you there, but that's not, he can go on a 2-minute drill. He's really good with 2-minute drills. That's about it, though. He's not going to sit there. He's going to try to do too much, especially when you're down that much. And it's a recipe for disaster. And then we saw the year that they made it to the AFC Championship game, he threw a total of, before the actual championship game, he threw a total of 30 passes between the first 3 games.
See, but so much of what you were just talking about is the issue Ryan Tannehill. He's not a player that's going to bring you back. Every other single quarterback really in the AFC is going to be doing that. Every single quarterback is going to make it. We've even seen Tua do it recently. We've seen him have the ability to put together game-winning drives. Tannehill at one point in his career actually was in top of the league in game-winning drives. That's not who he is now. They're so reliant on Derrick Henry, and it is the Derrick Henry show. This team goes where Derrick Henry goes. Last night, yes, Tannehill has good numbers, and there's nothing wrong with 333 yards, 22 of 27. That's a great stat line. But it was all based on the fact that Green Bay so heavily game planned for Derrick Henry. If Derrick Henry wasn't there, those wide receivers aren't getting as open as they were. The corners are looking into the backfield at all times because of Derrick Henry. Mm-hmm. And, that's a good thing. As long as he stays healthy, that's going to work. If he gets any sort of injury, that's where you do have to start to worry as a Tennessee fan. But even when he's healthy, we've seen this team in the playoffs, and I do still have the question marks if they can truly get to a Super Bowl with this team.
I think that they can. They do have a solid recipe. Now, it's not okay, do I have them in my top 5? No. Do I have them in my top 8? Absolutely. They have a chance to actually go and do things. Tannehill last year, he played at a high level without Henry, without A.J. Brown, without Julio. So without his top 3 weapons, they got the number 1 seed.
What happened when they actually got to the playoffs and he still had those weapons?
He had those weapons back, yeah. But once again, Henry wasn't at full strength, and they refused to put Deontay Foreman in over him. So he was averaging less than 2 yards a carry. And they ran the ball with him over 20 times. That's not a good recipe. And then at that point, they also had a decent defense last year. It got better this year. They did lose Harold Landry, but it's still a really good defense. I would argue better than they had last year. And on top of that, if Henry can just stay healthy, bro. If he can stay healthy, then and they can, he only averaged 3 yards per carry. But then you let Tannehill actually eat. In the year that as I was trying to say earlier, in the year that they went to the AFC Championship game, they only ran the ball, and they put Arthur Smith we all know now, and I was critical of him way before, is that he is so reluctant to
He will not abandon the run game.
He will not abandon the run game. And it just annoys me. It's like the complete opposite. It's like the complete opposite of like Chad O'Shea.
That would be the right thing to do now because of the lack of wide receivers. I mean, Treylon Burks had his first good game as a pro. Looking at Westbrook and Keeney, you're looking at Robert Woods, who he's going to maybe have a couple good games, but he's not a top-tier wide receiver. The passing game is not going to be something you can rely on. And if teams are going to stay disciplined like the Packers didn't do last night, that's just a simple issue of what happened with the Packers defense last night. They didn't stay disciplined. You know what's going to happen 9 times out of 10 on first down. You're going to see Derrick Henry get the ball. They handled that very well. On first down, Tennessee did not have a lot of success last night. But second, third down, when the play action starts to come, all those cornerbacks were just staring at Derrick Henry the entire time. And it isn't even like these complex routes that the wide receivers of the Titans are running. They're really just running 5 to 10 yards upfield and then either running left, running right, running in, running out, just going for a go route. It's not very complex offense that you're seeing here. Green Bay just was very undisciplined. I wonder, though, what happens if you come against the Bills with Sean McDermott, who is a defensive-minded coach? What happens next time if you go against the Kansas City Chiefs again, where they've already seen this team one time, they struggled, they're going to have maybe a little bit of a different game plan for them next time around? What happens when you come against the better teams, which we've seen now for multiple years? Once they do come across better teams, they end up failing.
I'd argue that it's really just I would be on the lookout for it's gonna be underrated teams. So teams that can stop the run with their front four and linebackers that can drop their people into coverage and not have them worry about, like you said, the corners looking in the backfield. If you can have your DBs not have to look in the backfield, like for example the way the Dolphins handled Nick Chubb in the Browns running game. It was really just the linebackers showed out that game, and the corners really just had to play the wide receivers and the tight ends. They didn't have to play up in the box. They didn't have to tackle Nick Chubb. He was sat right away, and that's the recipe to beat the Titans as well.
That is a very simple way to do it, though, because we saw the Dolphins, who struggled majority of the season, do it against Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb, Derrick Henry are pretty much on the same playing field in terms of their
I would argue that Cleveland's offensive line is better.
Yeah, I would argue it too. So you're then going over with Tennessee, and all you got to do is stop Derrick Henry. Now, that is a lot easier said than done. Derrick Henry is a monster of a man. There's nobody else really in the league like him. The only comparable person body-wise is Cordell Patterson, who is just figured out he's a running back. Like 10 years into his career. That's when he figured out he's a running back, is this long into his career. There's nothing else like Derrick Henry in this league. He does have games where he gets stopped. Last week, he had 5 fantasy points. He had 40 total yards on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
There is a recipe to beat the Titans. They don't have a lot when Derrick Henry isn't hitting. And Derrick Henry, he had a couple good plays yesterday, but especially on first down, they struggled. In the red zone, they struggled. The first few drives when they got to the red zone, I mean, he did score 1 touchdown, one of which he had to throw it. And on that play, he was stopped at the line of scrimmage, but that was the play designed to throw it over the top to Austin Hooper. There's such an obvious way to beat the Tennessee Titans. We've seen it year in, year out, what happens when they get to the playoffs. I don't have confidence that it's going to be a different story. I don't have confidence in this team saying it's any different, especially now without A.J. Brown.
It's really going to be which Tannehill shows up. That's exactly what it's going to be.
It's like Kirk Cousins.
It is. It's exactly like that. Kirk Cousins 1 and Kirk Cousins 2. It's exactly that. Which one's going to show up? Is it going to be 1 o'clock Kirk on Sunday, or is it going to be primetime Kirk?
The new nightmare.
Exactly. I mean, 1 o'clock Kirk, I think he's undefeated. Just saying.
Yeah, he is. I mean, their only loss as a whole is on Monday Night Football. He's undefeated on Sunday.
Exactly, which is crazy. Hey, and he only has 1 playoff win, but that was with the Vikings on a much worse team.
Which was that against the Saints? That was against the Saints. Yeah,
it was the revenge game.
They kept failing every single year. Also.
Yeah,
the Saints were in a similar run, kind of what we're talking about now with the Titans. That the Titans always hit a wall. Last few years of Drew Brees' career, Just always hit a wall.
Always hit a wall.
They should have made the Super Bowl that year with the Rams,
They
the
need to
bad
really start
call.
Winston, but that's another conversation.
They're looking pretty rough. They hit a wall. They should have made the Super Bowl that one year. And Tennessee also could have made the Super Bowl, like, was it the next? I think it might have been even the next year or 2 years later. I don't remember exactly.
Yeah.
But Tennessee 7-3, top of their division. I don't have in front of me where it is in the overall in the AFC. You can't complain.
I mean, technically they're tied for the Dolphins' number 2 seed.
Yeah, but I'm not sure who's the tiebreaker with that. You can't complain as a Titans fan because being 7-3, being where you are, one of your losses being an overtime loss with your backup quarterback in Arrowhead, you can live with that. I am not in any way really questioning what they've done this year. Like you said, they're a top 8 team. They're third in the AFC. Okay. They're a top 8 team. Cool. They're a top 8 team. That's fine and dandy. They've been that for like 4 years now. They've been a top 8 team. But what's it going to take for them to be the best team in the AFC? What most teams have done recently is go and get wide receiver. What did they do?
They traded away their best wide
receiver. They said, see you later.
And look what the Eagles are doing with A.J. Brown now. Given he had, a bad game last week, but, I mean, overall, he's really elevated that offense, and Devontae Smith has kind of been like a, shadow or phantom. And the Tennessee, they've had who at wide receiver? I mean, finally someone, or really all 3 of their wide receivers showed up this game. Treylon Burks, Robert Woods, and Westbrook Akine. I probably said that completely wrong, and I apologize. But you get my point, is that they finally showed up this game against a decent secondary. I mean, the Packers do have a decent secondary, especially with Jair Alexander. And it's really, can they continue to keep catching these guys off guard?
I don't believe in this team. Do you think that, just simply put, do you think this team can win a Super Bowl as it's constructed right now?
It really just depends on what Tannehill
That's a no.
It depends on what Tannehill shows up.
That's a no.
If Tannehill from this game shows up, even with that terrible interception, what did he do after that? He came back and had a strong rest of the game, right?
I mean, it was kind of late in the game. He didn't really do anything after that. He made that one throw to seal the game. That's first of all, it's a very gutsy play call with what?
I mean, that's Vrabel.
It was 2:05 left. Actually, it was Mr. Drunk Driver, I think. Pretty sure that's who it was.
Is he gonna get fired though?
No, he's not gonna get fired. But that was a very gutsy play call. You had it, 2:05 left on the clock, no timeouts left. I understand the decision because of the fact that the play clock's going to stop anyways, so just chuck it deep. So maybe it's not as gutsy as I thought it was. But still, it's one-on-one coverage, rookie wide receiver out there who hasn't played a lot this year. Very gutsy play call, it works. And ultimately, they are 7-3 now. I just don't have a lot of belief in this team. I don't think that they're going to be able to go and beat the Chiefs. Yeah, they contended with them. I don't feel confident if there's a rematch. I don't feel confident against the Bills. I don't feel confident against the Dolphins. I don't feel confident against the Ravens.
Actually, I'm going to go ahead and say that I think that out of the teams that you named in the AFC, I think they can go ahead and beat the Chiefs. I think they can go ahead and beat the Bills. I don't think they can beat the Dolphins. I don't think they can beat the Ravens, and I don't think they can beat the Jets.
Ooh, the Jets?
I don't think they can beat the Jets.
Oh, okay. Just go on based off that. Yeah. They are.
But I think they can beat this. The recipe that they have can beat Kansas City and Buffalo. Buffalo, the only reason being is because they're so beat up right now, and that they're going to have to.
But that's going to even out as the rest of the season plays off.
It's not. They're not getting healthier. Most of their good players are on IR for the rest of the season.
Most.
Jordan Poyer might come back, but Micah Hyde's out for the season.
Yeah. He's done, but they're going to get Trey White back. They're going to get Poyer back.
I don't know if their defensive line as it is they haven't really done good against the run this year. They haven't.
Yeah.
So as good as talented as it is, they haven't been good against the run. That's like. That's why I think that they can beat the Bills. I don't think they can beat the Jets. The Jets' defensive line has been really good, and you could just leave Sauce out there with Treylon Burks, and I trust them.
Tennessee moves to 7-3. You trust them a lot more than I do. They're definitely going to make the playoffs. They're definitely going to win the division, but I do have serious question marks as to what this team is going to be once it does make the playoffs.